Hey guys, welcome back to Stationery Muse channel. This is part 2 of the sticker just tips and tricks on how to create these for you, whether you're doing this for your shop or for personal use. I hope you guys enjoyed the first video. If you haven't seen it already, definitely go and click on the video down below so you can get caught up. The first video, I basically showed you guys how I illustrated my sticker sheet, how I brought it into the program, created the sheets, basically printed it out, and then you get this final result. And then today I just wanted to kind of talk you guys through some of the tips and tricks and things that I find that are tried and true when dealing with just these different types of machines. So if that is something you're interested in, then definitely stay tuned.
Reflecting on my decisions, wondering what could happen. It can all be gone in the blink of an eye.
Okay, so I am ready to finally print and cut this sticker kit. So the next thing, and really the last thing I just wanted to show you guys, is the setup of getting it together. So you created your sticker kit, got everything together, and now it's time to actually do the do. So over here up at the top is where you want to click to select all of the settings for getting the print lines. And I'm sure if you aren't familiar, but usually you may see on other videos or just anything, those little black lines, that's what we're going to set up. You have to know what machine you have. If you have a portrait, which is literally just portrait, so it's, I believe it's 8 by 12, I think is the size. Actually, I can just look on here. Yeah, 8 by 12 is a portrait, or if you have a Cameo, that's the one I have, you can go up to 12 inches. So I always select my machine. And then everything else I pretty much leave the same. I really don't like to change a lot of stuff, so I leave all of that how it is. And then we're going to turn the registration marks on, and that is where we get this whole little setup. Sometimes I will increase the thickness on this just to make sure that it does read it, but for the most part it's pretty good. So all I'm going to do right now is set this kit up to be print and cut. So we have 2 sheets on here, so you have a little red border, and that shows you where you don't want to go outside of. I have seen where people will say you don't really want to be within these little kind of crosshair areas either, so try to stay out of that if you can. If you do kind of touch it a little bit, I haven't really had any issues. It usually still cuts it just fine for me, but my stuff is pretty close. You just want to make sure whatever is getting cut, you don't want it to be outside of this red area. That's really where you don't want it to go. So I'm gonna head over to send. And then right in here is where you can do your settings. So I always go to line because I have those 2 different line settings. Simple, just I believe you can just keep it on, yeah, 1 color. I guess you can do 2. I don't know why I've never used this screen, but I always just go to line. That's just kind of my thing. And then on this screen, you will see all of the colors basically that are within this file. So all I have to do is just deselect everything that is not red or blue. As I mentioned, the red is the cut lines around the stickers, and then the blue is the border of what I want to actually cut out. So it's going to be a little bit of a thicker cut, so it has a different setting. And this literally does it in the order that it appears. So I always wanted to cut the stickers first, then go back and cut the border. So I always make sure that the red is first. But again, you can make your colors whatever you want them to be. Okay, and then I'm gonna also scroll down here because I know I have more stuff that needs to be unchecked. And this red is slightly different, so this is not a cut red. This is just the red that was in the designs. Okay, and then over here it gives you a preview of what actually is going to be getting cut. So your goal with this is you just want to make sure that everything you want to be cut is actually selected. So here's a mistake right here that I can see. I don't want these words to be cut in here. So that means that I must have forgot to deselect the outline on the text on that picture. So I'm just going to zoom in, and yeah, it's definitely outlined. So I'm going to just make sure that there's no cut lines on this because I don't want it cutting. And sometimes you may miss this stuff, especially after you get going. You may forget little things like this, but that's why I'm throwing them out there to remind you guys, because it'll be something like this. You'll be like, well, why did it do that? And it's because you don't want it to cut certain things. So just try to be, especially in the beginning, just really pay close attention to how you have everything set up and all of that, and it'll really help you So I just deselected everything. So now we're gonna go back. Now it shouldn't be selected anymore. Okay, perfect. So now the inside is not, it's just gonna cut around it, which is what I want. So again, you know, if you guys run into issues, like I said, they have really good customer service, tons of tutorials as well. I'm just showing you guys my process really fast. So okay, now I have everything over here. I'm gonna move this up with the other two, so these can all be moved around. And I know it's a little overwhelming with all of these colors, but basically these colors just represent the colors of the words, the fill in of different things, the color of just all of the different things that I did throughout this kit. So that is what all these colors are, but I don't want any of those colors to be cut. I just want red and blue. So red, as I mentioned, is going to be cutting out the stickers. So I'm just gonna do this matte sticker paper setting that I have set up. When you first get your machine, you will have to set up your settings. So if you guys wanna copy mine, you are more than welcome to. Matte sticker paper, sometimes I have to change it depending on the paper. Sometimes it only needs one pass, which just means it goes around it one time. Sometimes it needs two. It just depends on the thickness. So with that, you may have to play around with it, but it usually works. As far as the force and speed, I've never had to change that. I just usually will either make the passes more, like if, for example, you use that clear paper, sometimes it needs 3 passes because it's a little thicker than normal regular paper. And then 2 is my typical one that I use for my actual paper for my shop. So that's that. And then I'm gonna also switch this other red to the same thing, matte sticker paper. And this is a setting that I actually had to create on my own. You can easily create settings. Maybe I can go over that in another video if you guys want to see more in depth on how to do stuff like that, but I'm trying to keep this very just simple. And then also, just to show you guys, see how there are 2 reds? Sometimes it just splits them. I don't know why, but you can uncheck to see what is actually being cut on what. So as you can see, some of these things here are the second red, and then down here, so when I turn it back on, now they're all selected. So that's just another thing if you were wondering, like, well, why are there so many of the color you choose? That's why. So then in the blue, I'm gonna do my sticker border setting that I have. And that one has a different force and speed, so definitely getting copied if you need it. And I always do 2 passes on that. There are tons of other settings on here as well. They have, like you can see, cardstock, plain, for vinyl, all kind of materials. This is just, like I said, a sticker tutorial, but you have tons of settings and things you can play around with on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug in my machine, and then we're gonna get started with this one. All right, excuse my messy desk. So you just want to make sure this is not obviously the original cut mat, but Paper Studio has some really nice affordable ones if you guys ever need. They have a 2-pack from Hobby Lobby. But what I wanted to show you guys is you just want to make sure that this is as lined up as possible right here. The cut lines will definitely make sure that it's all straight and everything, but I try to just help it a little bit. You don't want to just throw it on there crooked because it still needs to be able to read the things where they should be. So just try to make it, doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to try to get it as close as possible and lined up to the sides like this. I just hit load, by the way. Okay, so now on the computer, I need to select, I do have a portrait too, but I'm using the Cameo right now, so I'm just gonna make sure I select the right one and just click the one that's available. My Bluetooth half works half the time, so that's why I always just use the USB thing. It just saves me a lot of just headache with this. So just waiting for it to sync. Okay, so it's ready. And then one more time, I'm just checking everything to make sure that stuff is looking good. Mistakes do happen, but I try to avoid them at all costs, especially when it comes to, you know, trying to make sure I'm not wasting materials. And then I'm just gonna hit send. And let's see what happens. So it's reading the marks right now. Sometimes I just literally stick around because sometimes it'll read it, but it still doesn't do it properly. So as soon as I see that it's cutting the first couple things correctly, I'm like, okay, I'm good to walk away. Because y'all, these machines are crazy. So really quickly, I just want to show you guys the actual machine that I use, and this is the Silhouette Cameo to cut stickers. Now, I also do have a Cricut that I want to show you guys as well because I love my Cricut so much. And when I started making stickers, this is actually the machine that I used. For various reasons, I decided to get a Silhouette. I also have a portrait too that I use when I have a little bit more volume, and I'll pull out and start using the second machine. But basically, if you already have a Cricut, you can still do everything that I'm showing you. I might have to do a separate video where I show you how to do stickers on here because it is very different. They have a whole different program and all of that. But I just found that with making stickers, the types of settings and things that I wanted to do, it just really fit really nicely to get a Cameo. And so this is typically what I use for all of my sticker making. I love the Silhouette program, but like I said, Cricut is amazing, and I can do another video where I show you guys how you can do stickers, especially for personal use. I find that you could do it in there. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, and it's always on. Okay, but yeah. One of my biggest tips that I would definitely say, whether you are illustrating the images or if you are bringing them in from somewhere else, let's say you ordered some graphic artwork, which is a lot of what I did when I first started my shop. If you order some artwork from like Creative Market or Etsy or something like that, you know, you'll bring it in. A lot of times when you purchase the stuff, they will actually have everything already saved as separate images, but you would just open all of that stuff in the program that you're using, whether it's going to be for your Cricut or for your Cameo. You would upload those images to Cameo software. I'm getting confused. You would upload those images to the Cricut software, or you would open them in the Silhouette software. One thing I do find too is there are a lot of times I will run into issues with these programs, these machines. They be acting up. One minute they working and you're just like going well with this. And you know, I'm speaking to everyone, but especially if you are kind of thinking about purchasing one of these machines because you want to start a sticker shop or something like that, just keep in mind that the stuff is going to have some issues. Technology, that's just how it is. But one thing I definitely will 100% say is that I never really have had a lot of issues with my Cricut. I've never had to call customer service at all for that. And that might just have a lot to do with the uses that I use it for. I use my Cricut more for like die cuts, cardstock cutouts, bigger stickers, you know, like different things like that. That's typically what I use my Cricut for. I use the Cameo for more intricate type of cutting, so like the smaller sticker kits and things like that. I just love the different settings and stuff that I can do with it, but I always have problems with my Cameo. Portrait, Silhouette, Studio, all that stuff. And I think a lot of it just has to do with there's so many moving parts. One big tip that I have definitely found and definitely want to pass this on to you guys is I find that when you just use the regular USB cord and plug it in, a lot of the issues seem to go away. I have had so many issues with the machine where I have wanted to throw it out the window. I've called, I've sent them videos of what's going on, all this different stuff, but since I've just started plugging the USB cord into my computer, I almost have next to no issues. I still every now and then will have a problem and I might need to register it manually, which basically just means, okay, let's say you go to load your sticker kit in and it actually reads these things. Let me show you guys. I'm kind of breaking it down for you. So it actually, this is already cut out, but you see these lines on here, the little black square, this one, and then there's one down here. So there's 3 of those. So when it prints out of your printer, these are the registration marks. This is what the machine is going to use to read to actually see what it needs to cut. Somehow it all works really cool to me, but it figures it out. So once it reads all of those, then it will go and it'll start cutting based off of all the settings and everything that you set up as we've discussed. But every now and then you will run into an issue where you will load it up and then it'll just say registration failed, and you'll be like, okay, I was just doing this. I just did 10 of these. Why am I having problems now? Sometimes it's an easy fix of just turning the machine off and back on. Sometimes you got to exit the program, restart the program, restart your computer, you know, all the basic stuff. Another thing you can do is actually try to manually register it, which it gives you the instructions on how you can do it manually. It's a little hard to explain just talking to you guys, but that's another option. And then you can also turn the machine off and you can actually, I'll show you guys. And then another tip I actually picked up from them, this is just from talking to customer service, I did not figure this stuff out on my own, is I will turn it off because my power is over here. And I have it's off right now. And they told me to literally take this thing and go back and forth with it 10 times. Somehow it's like a reset for it. So you just basically just drag it back and forth. And you would do that for 10 times. I know it seems weird, but if you have issues, that's another suggestion that they have. You know, you can always take your blade out, clean it, make sure that you don't have any problems with that. You know, make sure, and I probably need to get a new one myself here soon. But yeah, so there's lots of different issues you may run into with this thing. So just keep that in mind when you do purchase it off bat. You know, it'll be working flawlessly probably when you first get it and everything, but you will run into problems. It's just, I hear it from so many other shop owners. It's just inevitable. And especially as you start adding more to the mix, like the more you add, I heard you have even more issues sometimes. So just keep that in mind, but don't get frustrated. It is okay. Another thing I wanted to talk about really quick is mats. So when you do get your machine, I think it comes with 1 or 2 of those standard green mats, and they do actually have instructions for cleaning these things off. I'm really bad about it, but one thing I actually have written down to do this quarter, is to clean off my existing mats, because basically I'll just go get a new pack, which is really just not smart when you can just clean them off. But anyway, I'm showing you this because Paper Studio also has some, and they are a lot cheaper. And you get a 2-pack. I can't remember how much this was. I want to say it was like $12 though for 2. And then if they're on sale, or you can use a coupon, you just can't beat it. So I wanted to share this with you guys because you are going to need a ton of mats, especially the more machines you have. But even with like when I'm just using my 1 machine, or even the 2, the Portrait doesn't use this bigger one. It actually has to use this the 8x12 size. But whenever I am using this, and I know I'm doing like a lot of stickers, like for my box or something, for example, it's nice to have multiple mats because you can just kind of have them all loaded up, and then as soon as one finishes, you just can load the next one and just keep going. So that's a really nice thing. So maybe, you know, even if you just get an additional pack of mats, something nice to have. And then what I do sometimes is when it starts to kind of lose its stickiness, I just use some regular, just clear tape to tape them on, or just some washi tape or something. Be careful with the color of the washi tape if you do use washi tape, because sometimes the registration thing we were just talking about, it will actually pick it up and think that that's the registration mark. So try to go with like a lighter color washi tape. But whenever in doubt, just use regular like Scotch tape. And I go through these all the time because I use it all the time for sticker making. But yeah, so that's another really good just like money saver for this. Okay guys, so that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We definitely covered quite a bit, from illustrating to tips and tricks. If you do have any questions about my process, anything that I use, more in-depth questions about the programs or the machines or anything like that, please just let me know down in the comments and I will get back to you guys. If you have not already, subscribe to my channel. I will be making probably another follow-up video to this, especially if I do get enough questions to help you guys out even further. I know sometimes this can be a very big purchase for a business, or even just for someone who wants to use it for like crafting and personal use, but I do find that I have definitely got my money's worth 10 times over with the machines that I have. I love them so much. Yes, we have a love-hate relationship because sometimes they be acting up, but at the same time, they do the work. When they are working, they work really well, and I love them so much. So I hope this does help you if you are maybe thinking about buying one. I think the biggest thing for me that I found, when I remember the day that I got mine, I brought it home and I just watched a couple of videos. You know, they do give you the instruction booklet, but I'm just such more of like a visual person. So definitely just take a couple minutes to, even before you buy the machine, maybe watch a couple videos, get familiar with what the program looks like. You can actually download the software before you actually have the machine, I believe. I feel like they do ask you for some type of serial number or something, but even still, whether or not you can watch some videos and really just kind of get familiar with how the program works, what it looks like, and all of that. So then when you're ready to go and make that purchase, you're not going in with cold feet. You know, you kind of have been there, done that, and then from there you can just kind of play around with it. But I hope that I helped you guys out as much as I possibly can with this one. Definitely give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.